This evening is the Hillsboro School Board. We'll call the meeting into order. With that, the first thing we would like to do this evening is to perform a flag salute. Please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, we come up here. I don't know why it's tradition to stand over here. We're very excited to have with us tonight some performers from Century High School. Was kind of hoping that you'd just be the whole intro crowd for all of our opening. It's a great lead-up. During the 18 years that Jim Dunlop has been teaching at the district, Century High School band participation has grown from just 3 students to more than 60, and the school now has 3 full bands. This group is a small combination of the school's 3 bands. Tonight, Century High Jazz Combo will be performing 2 traditional jazz pieces featuring co-creator Faith Allen. Faith is the 5th of her siblings to participate in the band at Century High School. So let's join me in welcoming the Century High Jazz Combo.
Flower one more tune for you guys. It's actually more of a modern tune, but it is influenced by some older jazz. It's Better Than from one of our favorite bands, like Street Dive.
I could spend ages reading the news. I could spend ages singing the blues. But I turn on the lights, give up without a fight. Better than pretending to know what's wrong and what's right. Da-da-dum-dum-dum. I could spend ages asking myself why. There's a million ways that I could say goodbye. But I turned down the lights. Come, baby, come inside. Better than pretending to know what's wrong and what's right. Well, it's better than being some fool's bride. Da-dum, da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, turn down the lights. Come on, baby, come inside. Oh, better than pretending to know what's wrong and what's right. Well, it's better than being some fool's bride. Well, it's better than pretending to know what's wrong and what's right. Oh, what's wrong and what's right.
Can you pinch hit for me? Oh, that's probably.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. I'm very relaxed. great start.
Yeah.
Great start. Very well done. Thank you so much for coming.
Keep that comfortable at night.
Okay. On to our next items on our agenda. First, I'll be looking for an approval of the agenda with modifications discussed.
So I make a motion to approve the amended agenda, moving action item number 9B from the action section to before reports of discussion.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made to approve the agenda with the modifications described by Kim, seconded by Janine. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now, let's see. First item on the agenda is audience time. Let me read the statement and then I will have a question. Public participation in board meetings is governed by policy BBBH. Patrons may comment on specific agenda items at the beginning of the meeting or at the discretion of the board chair may be deferred to the time the item is before the board as stated in the agenda. Comments about non-agenda items will be heard during audience time at the beginning of the regular meeting. Speakers shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers may offer objective criticisms of school operations and programs that are of concern to them. However, in public sessions, the board will not hear personal complaints of school personnel nor against any person connected to the school system. Other channels provide for board consideration and disposition of legitimate complaints involving individuals, including board policy KL and KLD public complaints. If anyone wishes to address the board, they should complete the board agenda cards that are in the back corner, located on the table, and deliver them to Val Bachma, the board secretary. With that, I do have 4 agenda item or public comment requests. Looking over them, I do see that all 4 are related to agenda items later, action items that we'll be taking later. So first to the action items regarding the school calendar. Would you prefer to talk now or wait until the agenda item comes?
I'm here all night.
In general, I would recommend we take up the input at the time since the agenda item is scheduled, and to Jill. Collet, is that also good to go? So we'll wait on those. We also have one request from Barbara Wickham to discuss mention the letter to Hillsboro City Council. That also, I believe, is an agenda item for action. Would you prefer to talk now or wait until the agenda item comes up?
I don't care, whatever you guys find is best for you.
I think it would be effective to wait, and you could would have you speak before the agenda comes up. That's agreeable. Thank you. We will defer those public comments to the time of the agenda, when the agenda item is covered. Seeing no other public comment requests at this time, we'll move on to the new item in our agenda that was added between. That will be the appropriate time to hear the motion on that topic.
I move to uphold the personnel decision that was made by the superintendent's designee as we discussed in the executive session earlier this evening.
Second. The motion to uphold the action is moved by Kim and seconded by Eric. Is there any further comment? I don't believe we'll be taking no other discussion. So we will move to the vote. All those in favor of the motion to uphold the decision made by the designee of the superintendent's office, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, returning to our documented succession of topics. We are now in reports and discussion time. And we will first hear about the thought exchange report from Beth.
Thank you. We're getting that loaded up for you. Just as a reminder that we have a multi-year agreement with Thought Exchange, which is a company that helps us to run community engagement processes and focus on certain topic areas. We're running 2 processes a year. We ran 2 last year. We just ran our first process of this school year. And our topic focused on strategic planning because we are in the last year of our current plan and wanted to get some community feedback on what should be included in the next plan, how we should communicate with folks about progress toward the plan, what they consider to be indicative of a successful graduate of our school system, and then what questions they have about the process. So we ran this process in October and November, and again, as has been the case in the past, each school had its own separate process for staff and parents and community members, and then there was a district level process where if people wanted to weigh in at a district level, they could do that. So it started off with the share step where people initially are posed the questions and they can free respond to each of those questions without, seeing anybody else's thoughts. Then in the star step, they get to see back their own thoughts and then a subset of thoughts submitted by other folks, and then they can assign stars to the thoughts that resonate with them. And now we're at the discover stage where all of the results have been kind of analyzed and compiled and pulled into themes for us to share with you tonight. So again, I already talked about the questions that were asked in this process. In the first stage, in the share stage, we had 904 people participate and contribute 4,400 thoughts. In the next phase, in the star step, we see that 1,400 people participated. So I'm not overly surprised. I think sometimes people have a hard time looking at the blank screen and knowing what to say, but once there's things to kind of reflect on that are there, it becomes a little easier to weigh in. So altogether, we had 1,840 unique participants and lots of stars being assigned to those 4,400 thoughts. So similar to past processes, what we've kind of seen in the last 2 in particular, where about 75% of the respondents are parents and about a quarter are staff members. So just something to keep in mind once we're able to release the public-facing results website, which should be ready by next week. If you go in and look at the school-level responses, a difference this time is that they're not teasing out themes necessarily from the school processes, but they're what they're calling curating those processes and basically taking what are those things that really rose to the top and got the most activity in terms of, yes, a lot of people seem to feel like that really resonated with their thought process. And that's what you'll see is kind of being those top thoughts that you see in the school processes. Where at the district level, they are still helping us come up with what are the themes that we're seeing. So what they did for us this time was kind of take questions 1 and 4. What should be included in the plan and what questions do you have about our process? And they kind of combined those graphically so we could see where the activity was. You'll see facilities and resources here, and if that surprises you, maybe it won't surprise you to know that they lumped anything that had anything to do with class size in that category, which you'll see here as it's teased out. So this is, if you look at the facilities and resources, just that bar, and then here is a breakout of it on this slide. So primarily that's centered around class size and how are we going to, in our strategic plan, talk about how we feel about class size and what our plans are for maybe making strides in that area. Technology was in there as well, infrastructure and facilities, and then funding and budget. And then again, if you break down the curriculum and extracurricular offerings, a lot of people talking about enrichment programs, and then about curriculum, experiential learning, and so on. And then the learning environment, really talking about how do we meet the diverse learning needs of all of our students. And then, questions about testing. And as we're so new into the SBAC testing that's probably not a surprise that that's in there. Moving on, so safety, again, is showing up, and then we get kind of into where it's really crossing over into what questions do you have. A lot of people were wondering, how are we going to engage the community in this process? And quite honestly, that helped drive our decisions to hold 2 different community open houses in the spring, so that there'd be, you know, at least a couple different in-person opportunities to really kind of go through what are we thinking about putting in our next strategic plan, in addition to any kind of online or, you know, information fact sheet type stuff that we have available. Student character development. This has definitely been a theme that has come out in our thought exchange processes, where people want to know that we're focusing on health and wellness, and how are we preparing kids for those practical skills that they'll need once they leave our system. Do they know how to balance a checkbook? Do they know how to, you know, manage their finances and things like that? So you're seeing more of that here. College, life, and career ready. Independent and self-sufficient, and then developing lifelong learning skills. This is talking about equal opportunities across the district, leadership and management, and again, just kind of around the decision making and how we're managing results, sharing results, things like that. So here are some of the themes that emerge from, you know, taking a look at all the processes together and what bubbles up to district level thoughts. So again, we see class size, we see enrichment programs, meeting diverse learning needs, curriculum and programming, and then technology access in terms of things, you know, that the respondents to this process felt like they wanted to see in our next strategic plan. And then how do we best communicate? Technology, utilizing our parents and our staff members, and just really continuing to provide authentic opportunities for our community members to understand what it is that we're working towards, and then how our progress is looking. Kind of talked about those things: college life and career ready, character development, good citizen. And then I love that this did bubble up as a theme, funding and budget. Where will you find the money? Even though when we looked at the graphical representation, there was huge, class size, and then really tiny on funding and budget, when those are very much tied together. So I appreciate that is a theme that arose out of this, is how do we fund it? And that obviously has come up as a board question as well. How do we fund the things that are important to us? So definitely something our community wants to know as well. And before I attempt to follow that link, I wanted to also address, there was a gentleman that came to our last meeting here in November and kind of expressed some frustration over that whole notion of closing the loop. You have these processes and you share the results, but how do we know kind of what you've really done with these things? So I can't be as descriptive in a slide, but here's an attempt to kind of share my thought process with you all about how I want to create some of that information to add to our website. That's kind of, I asked Jane to help me with some infographics to show, okay, here was this process and here's what it asked, here were some of the themes, and then here are the things we did with it. So for example, our first process was really our quote-unquote weather report. How are we doing? What's the good, the bad, what are the suggestions? And what we did specifically with that was, there was a very clear directive given to principals to review their own data and their own themes that emerged and use that information as they created their school improvement plans. And then also, where appropriate, to address any kind of short-term action item needs within their own buildings. We used that feedback in seeing the very overwhelming response, as we did in this one about class size issues, as a way to kind of inform our creation of our 5-step reinvestment plan. And how do we intend to show people that we care about that too, and here is our ideal, where we want to get to, and maybe some incremental steps of how we do get there, but also here is the reality of the funding situation and all of our other priorities as well. So that was a direct outcome of our first process, and also having people tell us that they had a lot of questions about Common Core and testing, and then concerns about safety. helped us to understand that we needed to do some more and better communicating about that and put some additional resources up on our website and have some additional like listening session opportunities. And then our spring process, which was long-range planning, where we talked about the need for the district to grow and wanting feedback about what that growth looked like, especially in South Hillsboro as we consider building new schools. Some themes there were that people wanted to see us expand, get kids ready for college and career. So we definitely have expanded our college and career pathways work. People had concerns about middle school in general and the performance of our students at middle school. So we're continuing exploring ways to make our middle schools more effective and engaging through, Dale's conducting a needs analysis right now, and that's really going to help inform what are the gaps that we have in our system that we can address. And also we can hopefully say that the folks who responded to that survey had questions about why we would consider making a move to 6-8. So certainly if we were to seriously consider making that kind of move, we would probably need to be sharing some additional research and some reasons why we would want to, so that people felt good about that. But again, this is just kind of sharing with you that I want to be able to provide some of that loop closing on our website, and I actually gave feedback to Thought Exchange as an improvement idea for them that they might want to build into their process, like a 2 or 3 months post process to check back in with districts to say what are some of those steps so that they can help districts create those graphics and they can be embedded in the results website. So I know we don't have a ton of time for this presentation, and maybe this is enough for you to see right now. I think you've seen our other results websites. This one has some tweaks to it to make it a little bit easier to navigate, but you'll see the same opportunity of being able to drill down and what the question was and what the responses were and how many stars they got and whatnot. And again, that website should be ready to release to the public by next week. So.
Any questions? Okay.
I'm just wondering how we can engage students in the process. So most secondary students have a district email, spend time throughout their school day or school week on a computer. I would love if we could build in 5-10 minutes for students to actually respond, and even if that was just an email to their district email that they picked. A lot of kids have started using the app or using the Student View app their voices aren't being heard, and they may have a different perspective than we're hearing from parents on what they want and what they think is working well and not working well. So I would just love to find a systematic way to really build that in. I think if we don't land specifically on their device, right, they're not going to come out and seek us out. So, but because we all know that you have a device or they're spending time at one of our devices, I would just love to find a way to do that.
So our response to our participants is just going to be on the website. It's not going to be a direct email back to them. As far as our response to their questions, for instance, how are we addressing this in the strategic plan?
We do have the capability of, the Thought Exchange system. I mean, we provide them with the info, but they can email back out on behalf of Mike, for example, to say, thanks for all your participation, here's where you can view the results. And I mean, we come up with what's in that email, so we can definitely say, and for additional information on, information we've used from past processes, visit our website, we can have a link in there. It obviously goes out in hot news as well, but there'll be a couple different ways we can get that information out.
Well, I think what the gentleman was saying last meeting was, in fact, he wanted to see some kind of response to their answers to the questions. Have we addressed it, and in what way have we addressed it?
And I actually ran all my initial ideas by that gentleman. I emailed him directly.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Beth? Okay, thank you. We will move on to Travis with Pathways to College and Career Exploration Report.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share out with the board some of the exploration that we've done recently around the premier programs around the country that offer extraordinary opportunities for kids to enroll in college and be successful, and also programs around career and technical education. The goal of our College and Career Pathways project has been to create clear and viable pathways for all students in HSD, so that whether it's out of high school they find a job or whether they pursue an advanced degree, that students know where they're headed and what the connections are with the academics that they have in middle school and high school to the aspirations they have for their career. So as we've gained momentum with this project, we've been compelled to go out there and find who's beating the odds around the country. We took a trip very locally to Vancouver, Washington, and we took a trip to Texas with small teams to figure out what they're doing. In the first case, to have more and more students engaged in career and technical education opportunities, and in the second case, what they're doing in Texas to get an unusually high number of students enrolled in dual credit opportunities and enrolling in college programs. So I'm going to quickly blaze through a bunch of images. The purpose of this is not, there's no quiz at the end, but this is to do some shared learning together about what's out there, create some shared mental images for us about what these programs look like, and then answer some questions at the end. Janine was a teammate in one of these excursions, and so I'll ask her to chime in too and sort of talk about her perspective. This slideshow is built by the folks who visited these places. The first was the Clark County Skills Center. Their motto is excellence, innovation, and passionate spirit. The geography of our area here, Portland is highlighted in the little box, and we're just across the river in Clark County. This is a program that was sponsored by 8 school districts as a consortium, and they sponsored a career and technical education center called the Clark County Skills Center. We brought a team of folks who represented CTE leadership, counseling leadership, dropout prevention and attendance leadership, as well as administrators and tech gurus from our district. When you walk in here, you see immediately the faces of the industry partners who are partners with the Skills Center. So these are folks from the trades represented there, the industry sectors represented in the school, as well as the staff. They do a quick presentation for you on the fact that this isn't about how to learn how to be a dental hygienist or a culinary artist, but instead to gain these 21st century skills like teamwork, collaboration, high quality product, etc. Here you see photographs of their health and sciences programs. One is a dental hygienist program and one's a CPA. You get a CNA, Certified Nurse Assistant Certificate. Out of that program. This is the cosmetology program right next door. A live salon where you can get your nails and hair done. On the wall of the cosmetology department, they have the same 21st century goals and business-oriented logo there on the right. Computer technology, where they're building machines. Programming. They have a pre-engineering and design technology department where they do like CAD programs. They have state-of-the-art equipment to build things, print things, cut things. Drafting room right next door where students are building their products and learning about engineering. This teacher was a really neat guy, and he had the logo on the wall up there at the top that says, "Engineers create the world that never was." So these students are engaged in, whether it's a trade or an engineering advanced degree, they're starting here. Culinary arts program. On the left, you'll see on the hood fan up there in the kitchen, they've got their learning targets. And this presentation was made by a young woman who's about to get a job in a cruise company, ocean cruise liner, to be like a kitchen manager. She made the presentation for us, and they have a real restaurant where you can go have lunch. If you live in Vancouver, you can swing by for lunch in their restaurant, and they learn service industry skills as well as they run the show in the back of the house. They have an aviation department where they have a hangar with airplanes in it where students learn about electrical systems of airplanes. They look at the GPS map, weather systems, and then they have a flight simulator, and they wear their flight suits there when they attend class. And so they learn a variety of skills there. This is in partnership with the local aviators, but also with Boeing, because that's a big industry in Washington, high demand. They have a lot of jobs that they've identified they need to fill. Key ideas coming out of this visit were to make school as relevant as possible for students, but also community members, and constantly revise what that means. They've added programs and dropped programs because they've become more relevant or less relevant in their community at this skills center. Mutually reinforcing activities. The industry partners who support the school call the programs theirs. So the school administrators joke, they say, the hygienists and the aviation people think they run this place and that those are their kids. And we try to hold on to them because they're still our students. We're responsible for them. And so they have that authentic ownership of the programming. They have a schools foundation that helps gather money and constant support for the programs there. They have facilities to make these things happen. They focus on 21st century skills instead of the real specific skills that students are learning, because we know students will have a variety of careers during their lifetime. They need skills that transfer between careers. And then they track their students after graduation to make sure that they're engaged in meaningful work and future education opportunities. There's a link there in your packet if you want to explore more on their website. The second field trip that we took was a College for All conference. The FAR San Juan Alamo School District in South Texas has so many folks asking to visit that they put on a conference 1 week a year so that folks like us can come and learn what they're doing. They have an incredible graduation rate, especially because over 90% of their students are living in poverty, and most of them are language learners. Their slogan is college ready, college connected, and college complete. They call it CQ'd. In case you're not familiar with the geography of Texas like I wasn't, we're talking right down near Brownsville and as far south as you can go in Texas. Closer to Monterrey than San Antonio.
Under 8 miles, I think.
Yep. The team was some of the same folks from the first trip, and then Janina. We were really happy to have a board member there to learn alongside us. The president of South Texas College sat with the superintendent of the PSJA school district in the early 2000s, and they asked the question, what if all residents of South Texas had a living wage? What if all residents of South Texas had access to college and technical training starting in high school and for free? NYL math team, if you're a mathematician. They also have electives that help students accomplish certifications that are stackable with degrees later. So you can essentially major in robotics and automation at this school if you're into engineering, or you can go into medical technology if you're into science. Journalism blends with geography for social studies. So instead of just social studies, they're learning the techniques of journalism, how to represent an international conflict in the news, and how to dissect what journalists do. They have an engineering and robotics class that has a championship team after school, but students take this as a course and build robots right there in collaborative groups. Somehow they got vernier probes down in South Texas, which come from Washington County.
Company I work for.
We have an insider there who found some of these probes. This is a physics class that uses that technology. This class happens to be conducted by a professor who speaks Spanish. So this is a physics class in Spanish that these students are doing as part of a cohort of bilingual STEM graduates from the program. This is last year's cohort. They have a dual language program just like we do, articulated K-12. These are snapshots of the road maps that you can zoom in on if you want to see more. I wanted to include this because I was so taken by the climate and culture of the schools that we visited. These were, on the right are some of our tour guides, and on the left are a panel of school staff, counselors, teachers, admin, who just talked to us about what they do. And everywhere you look, it felt very collegiate. You see the flags back there and the common spaces. And I mean, they had a beautiful facility at this particular high school. But the students really made the tone. They treated each other with incredible respect and just represented their school so proudly. They have added arts and activities like athletics recently, but you really hear them talk about college and academics. We asked them, like, so how's your football team? And they're like, pretty good. So there's an interesting downplay of that. But one of the things that the students said is once we launched these high schools, we really did go back and say, could we get some, like a band? So here's their mariachi. And they do have all the other things that a normal high school would have, but those things came second in the way they reconstructed their schools. This is a CTE academy that they have. Big strategy they have for dropout prevention is to go sometimes physically to the houses of their dropouts, stand in the living room and say, you're going to come back to the CTE center and we're going to get you connected to a career. We heard some really moving stories from students. This is just a snapshot inside some of the facilities they have that are the type of facilities you can't necessarily build in a brick and mortar high school. We do have some high-tech facilities in some of our high schools, but these are remarkable stations where they have fab spaces and then laboratories to do things, welding, plasma cutters to do large-scale, expensive cuts. What they said is there's 3 predictors of post-secondary success: parental education, family income, and the rigor of high school curriculum. The first 2 are not super within our control. The last one really is, except the wrinkle here is they created a facility just for their parents. So they have an ESL classes and some technology classes. Then they have a front office where they put posters on the wall and parents sign up to offer courses to other parents. So whether it's cooking or parenting or some skill that they have, they sign up to create a course load for each other, and they carry out the courses in the parent school. So some of the themes we came away with were college partnerships. Seems obvious for the dual credit question. Stackables, meaning that 40-40-20, you can get some early certifications that can stack into degrees. Parent engagement, back on track dropout prevention systems that are airtight. They have a 97% graduation rate because they hold on to students as long as they possibly can and get them connected to careers. Relevant mission and vision. Does the community understand what the mission of the schools are? And do the students in the schools understand how they connect to the community? Invest in leadership, invest in staff, prepare students. And what's the role of the school board? Janine had added some of these slides. We did a collage of slides. And Janine, could you talk for a second about what your experience was in terms of the board's relationship to this project?
Well, I thought it was just a really interesting partnership all around with, as you touched on, community college and the college leadership there, working with teachers. They also have the school board members there, and these school board members really basically, I even wrote it down here. They call this whole process they're agents of change in this whole process. They're taking the steps necessary to achieve their dreams. They're transforming the way that we do business so that students succeed. This is a quote from the school board guy. He was like, he was the president, the chair. Let professionals do their job and stay out of their way. That's what he said. But he said it's important. It's not just like let them do it and back away, but it's about sharing. Your role is to share your perspective, engage in the conversation, going into the classrooms, seeing how everything is working and how the investments are happening. But really, there are so many professionals that are doing the work that it's not our role as school board members. This is what the gentleman was saying. It wasn't their role to go in and really lead this work. It was their role to just go in and make sure that they had their things, had supports in place till the work could be done. But also, on the other point of that, they also had legislative change in Texas. So they had funding support, as well as bringing in those 18 to 25-year-olds. I was really impressed with that. I think I've written that down. What they did to bring those students back into with that flexible school, it was really, I cried. Because listening to these students and where their paths were taking them, and then where they ended, and what their belief in the system, their belief that this was a family, that they were there to succeed, I just was really impressed with that. I think that just the partnerships that they talked about alone, just in the community as well as the higher ed, but the businesses that support this, and the fact that students can leave high school and then they can go to the college classrooms and take courses. And I also liked the fact that they didn't just concentrate on college and saying you need more college credit, college credit, college credit. they really gave students support in their different pathways. So if college was their pathway, they certainly gave them options with being able to try things and get college credit. But they also provide these certifications so that students could get that welding certification, or they could get the cosmetology, all those different things, because a diploma isn't what it used to be. It used to be that you could get a college diploma, high school diploma, walk out and get a job. Can't necessarily, that doesn't work in our society and now, and they need so much more. And they just gave them not only that boost for that foundation for their college work, but also it helped them take advantage of the programs, the focus programs, so that they could work towards those certifications. And that was really key, I think, for those 18 to 25-year-olds, because they maybe have situations and barriers and things in place that don't just say, okay, yeah, now you're going to a four-year college, because there's so many other things that they're working, whether they have family, income issues, and whatnot. So that having that certification was huge for them. And they knew that the stories that we heard, like I said, were just incredible. But it really is about making sure that, as far as when I talked to board members there, it really was, it was that partnership, but it wasn't that they didn't feel the burden of having to create this movement and this thing. They knew they had really highly trained, wonderful partnerships, folks that were together. The role of the board was just to share their perspective, kind of guide the work, and make sure that they had a clear pathway to get it done, because their job was to make sure that students succeeded. So, and I also like the T-STEM school that we went to, there was no sports teams there. And, I talked to my older son about that. He's like, yeah, sports, it's such a teamwork thing, and that's how they learn teamwork. Well, come on, seriously. Look at the programs that they had in place. They're getting the collaboration. They're understanding their roles as on a team, and they're understanding so much and getting real-world skills. So I appreciated that there was those avenues that students could take. And I wanted to touch one more thing on the parents that you had taking the classes alongside their students. Not only did this help parents in the community and making sure that you're helping parents be able to seek employment as well in the community by learning these skills, but also they saw a difference in those parents helping support their student in their work, because they were working alongside of them, and they're like, wait, I'm here, let's do this, let's get this done, and let's make this happen. And then part of the give back was that they had to do, I think it was like 90 hours or something, volunteer, anyway. But they didn't tell them they had to do it in the school. They said you could do it anywhere in the community. A huge percentage of those parents came back into the schools and then volunteered in programs in the schools. And so I just think it's just that part of that three-legged stool that was just so incredibly important. They just had the staff and the community, and they had the parents and the students, and my eyes were opened in Texas. So I just was really excited to be part of that.
And we had great conversations there, because we had Janine and Roger and Kelly, or at least we would debrief after these sessions and just think, so what are we learning here? So I appreciate your contributions to the PowerPoint and the thinking.
And can I just say one more thing? Sorry, Travis. I want to say that I was really super nervous in this role. I'll be honest with you. I felt like, oh my goodness, these are professionals. I am not an educator. I'm a mom, and I am. I just felt really nervous. Like, do I feel validated in this process? But I just appreciated the way the conversations went, and I do appreciate when you're able to see things in a different setting, and your lens expands. And I just appreciated this opportunity to see that. But having the feedback and having the professionals there say, if I questioned something, I didn't feel stupid, I just said it. I did. And then they would say, well, what about this or this or that? And so I just appreciated that, and it was good.
Good job. Thank you.
Thanks.
So next steps, what do we do now? The good news is that we have a lot of great things in place in Hillsboro. We have strong CTE programs. We have a steering committee around our College and Career Pathways project. And the board has had visitors from different career learning areas come and present here, horticulture, manufacturing. And so you've started to understand the different areas of work and what kind of leaders we have in our district in terms of our teachers and our students. We just got a big manufacturing grant. Tim Morley, who was here one evening and made the signage on the walls with his students, he just got a huge grant to create a state-of-the-art manufacturing facility at Century High School. There's just going to be one more venue that kids can get career and technical education. We got a big dual language grant to further solidify our K-12 articulation for our bilingual programs. We just got a promise replication grant that's going to build a lot more dual language opportunities for Hillsboro students who are partnering in that grant. We just had a meeting this morning around a unified course catalog where families in Hillsboro can see all these opportunities in one document, and we can see what we offer across high schools in terms of programs to study. We have some decisions to make, though, in terms of how big do we go with an approach to career and technical education and dual credit? Some proposals have been out there to strengthen our programs in our existing high schools, and there's been talk among leaders and community partners about the possibility of a skills center. We have community partners on our College and Career Pathways Project Steering Committee and Executive Committee that have asked us what we think is possible in terms of opportunities for kids to learn in our high schools, but also off-site, maybe in their facilities, maybe in a hub. We've had exploratory conversations with the city and the chamber and some of our business partners about what it would look like to fund more incredible career and technical education facilities. Also to start to blend what we call alternative education and online learning with all of that, so that learning doesn't so much attach to just one school I go to, but is a variety of opportunities in our community and online. We are going to come to the table as leaders with more and more vision and proposals about how this might look. And the ask I'd like to make of the board tonight is just to think about the concepts you've seen and think about the pros and cons of different approaches to dual credit, to career and technical education, and ask questions and just be learners along with us, because our aspiration is to make Hillsboro exemplary nationally. And we think we can do that. We have a community that's the size that's provides our students with a broad range of types of work they can go into and have a meaningful life and make a contribution in our community. We have everything from agriculture to high tech, but it's scalable. We're a small enough community that we know each other. We have business partners that are all in supporting our schools. So conversations that might be impossible in Los Angeles are possible in Hillsboro. So I just want us to think about that, and any learning opportunity that you guys would like to have or more information about this. We're here as a team, as the College and Career Pathways Project, to help better inform ourselves. So thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Russ. I could spend another hour asking you questions because it's really intriguing on how it might go, and I suspect there will be plenty of questions here. I would encourage us in lieu of the time that we take advantage of Travis's offer to ponder the content and connect with him offline for more detailed information so that we could continue. Janine, is there?
Do you mind if I just say something? It isn't a question. I'm going to be super brief. I just want us to think about this because I'm just going to, it's a personal story of my two boys who take two very different paths. A college 4-year, 6-year student, because he's in his master's now, and then I have a student that is going to a trade school. And I really need us to think about our students in our district and how we're helping them, because I'll be completely honest. My 19-year-old sat on a couch last week, and he said to me, I don't feel like the Hillsboro School District prepared me for a successful future. In the fact that he is taking this more trade. He's going for more lineman, electrician. And he felt like he said it was constant messaging about college. college, college, college. And he said it really does a disservice to our students to really not bring in those other courses and discussions and everything and focus. Because when he's 19 and he's trying to figure everything out, it feels a little late in the game. He's going to get it figured out. But if we can have those opportunities for our students way earlier, we have such a range of students. Those are just my personal story. But for my older son, it did prepare him. Liberty Senior Inc. did prepare him for college courses and things. But I just think we need to think about that, and I think that is a gap that we do have in our district, is that those certification programs and trade focuses.
Great, thank you, Jean. Any other comments before we proceed? Again, I would encourage, and I will hit Travis up sometime because I'd love to get a lot more detail about what's covered there. So thank you very much, Travis, and for all of your team and participants. It was great. Thank you. All right, and you don't get away because you're up with Division 22 assurances.
This one is much quicker and not as interesting.
Good, because you have 10 minutes to make up.
Great. Division 22 we put in each year per the request of the Oregon Department of Education to make sure we're in compliance with different OARs. They requested 5 this year, and by February 15th we have to say we're in compliance or not with each of the 5. Public notice has to be given by the 15th of January, so that's why tonight I'm presenting the 5 categories and saying that we are in compliance with them, with one little asterisk. So the categories that they're requesting from us are that the district has a continuous improvement plan, that we have policies that regarding reporting of child abuse, that we have diploma requirements in accordance with the OARs, that we have district curriculum that's up to date, and that we have the required instructional seat time for all of our students. We're compliant in all those areas. The one thing that I'm going to mark as a note for them is that although we update our curriculum annually to be in line with the standards, that as ODE knows, in several content areas we haven't adopted materials or textbooks on cycle with what ODE has asked. Each year I come to the board and say we're putting in this document that says for these areas we're not on cycle, and they say okay, sounds good. And that's the one component of this Division 22 submission that I'll make that note in. But in the next column it says, are your courses up to date? Is what teachers teach in line with standards? And we're saying yes in all categories because we have the structures to ensure that. So that's a summary of what we'll be submitting by February 15th at ODE for Division 22.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Next up, we have a first reading of a 2015-16 Drug, Alcohol, Tobacco Prevention Plan with Casey.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you. What you have in front of you in your packet is the annual Drug, Alcohol, and Tobacco Prevention Plan as we present each year. A couple of highlights that I'd like to specifically mention is the work that we do with our care team at the school and our care coordinator program. Each year we see an increase in the numbers of referrals, mental health services. It all rolls into the tobacco, alcohol, drug prevention program. So I think that's a model program that continues to serve our district well, and it's certainly something to be proud of, and I think it's really benefiting our students. Another one, our relationship with our school resource officers and the work that they do on our schools. I know that many times we take it for granted, the numbers and the partnership we have them, because it's not like that in other school districts, even our surrounding districts, it's not like that. So we want to make sure to recognize them and the work that they do, whether it be home visits, whether it be just informal discussions with students in the hallway, as well as all the other stuff that we do. I think the key to a lot of this is keeping students engaged. One of the key components that we gather our data from with the Drug, Alcohol, and Tobacco Prevention Plan is our student surveys. And as you remember, these are student surveys that are issued by the state. So every other year, you'll see a different survey, although they're similar. So you have the Oregon Healthy Teens Survey and the Oregon Student Wellness Survey issued on different years. If you look in the third page of the report, what we've done is tried to kind of chart out a comparison and look at the Oregon Healthy Teen Survey when we completed in 2013 compared to when students took it this past winter to look at the results. One of the things that was an obvious increase is, especially with the reported tobacco 30-day use, and you'll see that, for example, we went from a 3.3% student indication in 2013 to an 11.6. So pretty significant increase. But what you also find is that's statewide as well. One of the things that I would attribute this to is they added a question in the 2015 survey that they didn't have in the 2013 survey, which basically says, did you use tobacco in the last 30 days? Seems pretty obvious question to have, but they didn't have that previous. So it was a calculation and an average of a series of questions about all kinds of things about tobacco use. So I think that is one of the reasons to look at some of the increases. And specifically, some of the increases that I saw to increase that is just what we have talked about many times before, is the increase in tobacco use through like hookahs, through e-cigarettes. There's a significant increase in those in the vaping products that are on the surveys that had a lower account for last year. So that's one of the significant increases. We do have pretty significant some decreases in our alcohol use indicated by students, and also a few decreases in our marijuana use. It will be interesting if anyone's kind of wondering with the legalization how that impacts our next year's survey. So we'll see how that goes. Is there any kind of specific questions I could answer based on the survey results or the drug, alcohol, and tobacco prevention plan as you reviewed it?
Can you review? I'm looking at these numbers that have increased, and I'm not sure I'm understanding the increase.
Okay.
You said vape and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so basically how it works. Yeah, so how it works, Monty, is so for the tobacco portion of the survey, there's probably 12 questions about tobacco use, everything from type to how they use it, what their feelings are on it. And so historically, all of those have been combined in the calculation to get the average at the state level and the district level. I think while they had that in the 2015 survey as well, the last question was just the question, have you used tobacco in the past 30 days? Yes or no? And so the increased number is what they indicated, just a student answered yes to that question. So for example, here's one of the questions. It says, during the past 30 days, on how many days did you smoke cigarettes to a student? In 2013, 3.9% of our students indicated that they had done that. In 2015, it was 4.4%, so a little bit of an increase. If you look, here's another question. During the past 30 days, how many days do you smoke tobacco in a hookah? In 2013, this is our 8th grade students, for example, 2.6% of the students indicated they did. This past winter, 5.8% of our students indicated they did. And the vaping went from, in 2013, 1% of our students indicated that they had used that. 2015, 9.1%. So those are how the increases were seen. And it's similar on the high school level at the 11th grade level. So that's how they get the numbers. Does that answer?
So what you said, I would assume then that if maybe we need to increase our education about vaping?
Yeah, I think that's the purpose why we gather the data, is so we can look at where the increases are and what we need to do to target more education in the areas. It's kind of that whole thing where, especially in the past couple of years, just the marketing and availability of these products and how creative the vendors get in marketing is so easy to get. And the perception when in the students in the survey even is, do you think this product is bad? And a lot of them will say, no, it looks like a Tic Tac, or it looks like whatever. So I think the education, and we have been working with the county, there's a tobacco prevention specialist at Washington County, and she's given us some presentations on the marketing and some tools out there. So we'll be reaching out to her again. These results, we actually had to delay this presentation because they just were released maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago maybe. So we just got them. So we're just kind of deciphering this and the rest of the 100 questions. Anything else? Okay. Maybe still here. I'm going to have Michelle Brady come up with me and join me. I want to introduce you to Michelle. For those of you who don't know her, she spent a long time in our district as one of our nurses. And over the last couple of years, she's taken more of a role in safety prevention. And this year, as we changed some roles around, she is now a full-time safety manager for the district. This is also one of the first times that we have extrapolated safety out into an annual report that you have to review. I just want to say that I feel extremely confident and extremely proud of the measures that we've taken as a district in safety. I get calls all the time about various components of our district program and how we're doing things and all of the things we've implemented. So while it will never be able to, maybe prevent everything, I feel good about the systems that we have in place. So the purpose of this is really kind of to give you some things that we do in our district. Some of them are very unique to our district. And so you have a chance to take a look at that. And I'm going to let Michelle spend just a couple minutes and highlight a couple things and answer any questions you may have. So just a couple minutes.
Good evening. Thanks. We appreciate the opportunity to provide you with the safety annual report that you have in front of you. And what we've done is highlight the safety practices, procedures, and the systems that we've put in place throughout our district to keep our students and our staff safe. So I don't know if you want to look through the report, if you have any specific questions on any of the topics.
I don't have a specific question on the topics, but considering what happened in California last week, what's your comment on this argument that we made our schools softer targets by making them non-gun zones?
Is what I would say is, I don't believe that we have made our schools or any facilities softer. I think what you're seeing is a couple of different things. One is the mental health crisis that you talk about when you're talking about like what happened down at UCC. When you're talking about what happened down in San Bernardino, where you have what it sounds like is some radicalists that have been, brought into our country with that intent, which I don't think that there's any type of a building that could prevent something like that happening other than a jail. And so while the targets have always been there, I mean, anything can be a target, I think what the challenge is dealing with what we're seeing as a nation and these groups that are, it's their mission to cause these catastrophic events. So, sure, I would say that
they know no guns are on the premises.
Well, I would say, Monty, that we have 9 police officers in our district in our buildings at random times at all the time, and we have police cars in our buildings. There's across this country there are many zones that are gun-free zones. So we have a great relationship with our SROs. So I wouldn't say that they know that. Anybody that doesn't know that we don't have an SRO in our building or somebody close by. So I think it is one of those things that schools are, like I said, no different than the disability center down at in San Bernardino. But the fact is, we do have armed people, professionals in our building. So the target, I just think it's that could be any site, anytime.
And I think our focus our focus really, I think we focus really strongly on educating our students and staff to recognize the signs and symptoms of a student or an adult that's diagnosed, and then what are the, and fostering the culture of it's okay to tell somebody, to report if something doesn't set right with you, and then just making sure that our students and staff, unfortunately, know how to respond and know, what they need to do if they come across that situation.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have this month's financial report in front of you. As I mentioned last time, because of the way that the board meetings fell this month, we're basically lagging a month behind in our financial statements. So if you look at that, we really did spend money in November, and we did receive money in November. Because of the time that we had to turn this paperwork in order to get to the packet, those hadn't been posted yet. So rest assured, we are on schedule with both our revenues and expenditures. But if you look at the reports, you're going to, especially if you compare this fiscal year to last fiscal year, you're going to see a pretty significant percentage change. So rest assured, we are on track on that. I was going to introduce a couple of student interns that we had with us, but they had to leave. But we do have a couple of student interns working with us again in the business office from, I believe they're from Glencoe. But I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have regarding the financial report.
Okay. Thank you, Adam. Okay, with that, I would be next looking for a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Motion has been, this is one of those name blank moments. Motion's been made by Glenn and seconded by Lisa to approve the consent agenda. Any questions? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the vote for letter of support for North Hillsboro Industrial Renewal Area. This time we do have one person who has requested to speak to the board on the topic. I would ask Barbara to come up and state your name and address for the record, and then you have 3 minutes to address the board.
Gone past the egg timer?
We'll talk about that later. I do have a little fancy button here. We'll see if it works.
It says 3 minutes. Short, I'm short. My name is Barbara Wickham, and I live at 12830 Northwest Laidlaw Road, and I'm a Washington County resident. And I sent the gist of this letter to you earlier with a few modifications that I made while I was sitting there. Good evening, nice to be here. Wonderful to actually sit in on this session. I recently heard that you were endorsing the application for education funds to support the Urban Renewal District from the City of Hillsboro. I spoke at length with one of the Hillsboro council members about the guidelines for the renewal district. And this is my takeaway from my discussion with him. Number one, the types of businesses that are going to be put into this renewal district are not guaranteed. They're not guaranteed to be data centers. They're not guaranteed to be manufacturers. In fact, he said 20% data center, 40% manufacturing, and the other miscellaneous. And I said, is that guaranteed to be that amount? He said, no. I said, could it be all data centers? He said, yes. There's no guarantee for that. Number two, the number of people to employ by these businesses are not guaranteed. I said, how many do you think they'll employ? He said, well, originally we thought several thousand, then maybe 250. And I said, well, if it's all data centers, how many could we consider? Let's look at Prineville. Prineville, 1.5 persons per data center. All right? Now, I said, all right, fine. All right, then I said, okay, now if we're going to employ, he said, well, we expect 250. I said, okay. I said, number 3, employees living in the county, are they going to be living in the county? And he said, are they going to live in Hillsboro? And he goes, well, they can commute from Multnomah County. I said, well, could they commute from the Eastern Oregon telecommute? He goes, yes, they could be there. I said, could they come from Idaho? And he goes, well, yes, absolutely. I said, could they be in India? And he went, yes. And then I said, well, how is that going to affect whether or not they're going to contribute to the tax structure in Hillsboro? And he went, well, I guess they're not. And then I went, okay, number 4. Can we set a limit on the amount of property tax break to the businesses? And he said, well, of course not. We can't set a limit on that. That's for negotiations later. And I said, okay, all right. Can we recoup, number 5, the loss to the district within the time frame mentioned by the Hillsboro City Council? And he went, no. He said, we can always renegotiate that later. We can change that, we can freeze it, we can make it more, because that's all negotiable. I went, okay. I said, and lastly, I said, is the length of time that the property tax break be finite? And he said, I said, you say 25 years. And he said, I said, is that guaranteed? And he said, well, no, we can renegotiate that. And I said, so you could do something similar to the Intel and make it 50 years. And he goes, well, yeah, yes, we can. It's all not guaranteed. It's all negotiable. And I went, I said, this is disturbing. This is very disturbing. Because nowhere, I decided to do a little looking on our school district website. All right, and I said, you know what? Nowhere on the school district's website could I find where the explanation of how the district will reallocate funds to cover the loss of the school dollars due to that funding loss. I also said, I have not seen a breakdown of how the lack of funds will affect operations. I've not seen anywhere on the district's website how future requests for education dollars are going to be handled. In other words, this is setting a precedent that is acceptable for the city of Hillsboro to tap educational dollars whenever they want. All right, the board will rubber stamp their request. I don't mean that as an insult. Okay. The lack of clarity and transparency with the contents of the letter is inappropriate to say the least. The letter is not on the district website. It has not been made public. We don't know what it says. And I'm just a citizen of Washington County. All right? Now tonight, you talked about funding for all kinds of programs. And you talked about wonderful grants. And you also talked about earlier in the listening session, sustaining those grants. All right? It is my belief that the city of Hillsboro is looking for funding, and education is the easiest pot to pull from. It saddens me that this draw from our educational budget is okay with the board, especially when funding for schools in Oregon is below the quality schools model to the tune of several $billions. I suppose the basic question that I'm asking is, why is it acceptable for the city of Hillsboro to use educational dollars to give businesses financial breaks? And why is it even on the table? And especially, why is it acceptable to the members of our board, which we elected to provide funding, resources, and protection to our students? I respectfully ask you to please not sign or endorse the funding draw for the city of Hillsboro, or at least wait until you have made these impacts in your plan to compensate for it public, and to have allowed for the community to weigh in on your decision. And that's what I'm requesting. Thank you. Okay.
So as a matter of process, I would be looking for a motion on the action item, and then we would take questions and discussions. So, looking for a motion.
Okay, I'll move that we send a letter to the Hillsboro Mayor and City Council in support of the North Hillsboro Industrial Renewal Area.
And I will second that.
Moved by Eric and seconded by Glenn. Now time for questions and discussion. Okay.
So, I listened to the presentations that were given to us from the city, and I've actually heard the presentation given to the city councilors as well. And the one thing that does impress me about the situation is that they, much like us, don't do anything without a great deal of thought and planning. So there's been literally hundreds, if not thousands of staff hours, probably several hundred staff hours that went into these kinds of recommendations to create this particular zone. I think that I'm not going to address what was said to us directly, but other than to say that the tax dollar piece, I think it's a bit of a misunderstanding that's common out there of where these tax dollars are. I mean, it's the judgment of the city that without this industrial renewal, there won't be any additional tax dollars coming to the state school fund, not actually directly to us, but the entire state school fund. So their thought is that they're basically going to take a calculated risk today to have a greater return later. And to be honest, I don't see a compelling reason to mistrust their judgment in this regard. And so I'm willing to support that and give them at their word that they, being one of our really strong partner friends, have our best interests at heart, and that they wouldn't do this if they thought it was going to harm us. So that's my 2 cents.
I've struggled with this one. I've struggled with it because, as Kim pointed out, really, we don't have a say in this. They do this whether we approve this or not. I think that we are providing them an endorsement to say we don't have an issue with what your plan is, but we don't have stake in the game. And I think that's one of the crazy things that we've talked about, in the past, is that so many decisions can be made about growth and different things in an area, and schools aren't at the table with an actual seat that says yay or nay. So I was wondering myself, I was like, gosh, without having that say, when I'm having so many questions, I'm not sure I want to move forward on it. And then I go back and forth and I listen to Lisa's compelling statements last month on that. I also do believe in the partnership that we do have with the city and a strong partner. I do have concerns about, did I already say this, about data centers? I have concerns about that. Yeah, I'm really uneasy about this, and that's what I just wanted to say.
Is the letter mute at this point? I mean, they voted last Tuesday to approve this, so why are we sending the letter now?
Can I?
Sure, I was hoping you...
Well, I spoke with Michael Brown when I was drafting this at your request last month, and he said that not every piece is approved, and that it would still be very helpful to have a letter of support to vote yes on it. So I went ahead and did the drafting.
Any other comments?
We have did we have, and I apologize for this because there was the actual financial impact. Did we have the?
There was a good.
Yeah.
Lisa?
There was I think a 2-page document in our packet last month.
Right, and then that was last month.
Is it in this proposal?
That was-
I've looked through it and I haven't seen it.
It was in our board packet.
It was last month's, yeah. That's why I couldn't remember.
It's not in the
what
proposal, though?
I don't recognize that.
That's the proposal report on the renewal.
Well, what I looked at was what they sent to us.
There's nothing in here that gives us the cumulative loss of tax revenues to the school, state school fund.
Adam has that answer.
I just want to take a second and review how this process works. The property in question currently has an assessed value of $51 million. The way this will work is that will be frozen. That property will we will continue to receive our debt service payment and our property tax revenue based on that $51 million figure. In 2015-16, we're going to receive about $795,000 in local property taxes. We'll continue to receive that from now until this expires, assuming it's approved. We received $114,000 in debt service payment. So that we will continue to receive based on that $51 million assessed value. As the new value comes on, as the infrastructure is improved and new buildings are built, the value will increase, and that new value will be what is used to pay the debt service on all the improvements they're going to make. So the district's not going to lose tax revenue based on anything. We're not.
Well, over the 25-year period, we're going up 3% on that assessment.
That's assuming that property would be developed if this didn't happen.
No, I mean, the normal assessment of 15-16 goes up 3% every year, doesn't it?
Yes.
And we would have gotten that increase.
That 3%
increase. So we're losing that opportunity revenue.
Yes. That amount won't go into the state school fund. That's correct.
In the states. And it's 3%.
Right.
So that is the impact.
Okay.
And I just want to add, just to that point again, if it's not developed, no more money is coming to us. And I remember Lisa sharing figures last month about once that moves aside and the property is developed and we got it, the amount is far more substantial than the $795 per year for undeveloped land.
That's correct.
I just want to make sure.
This is a private discussion. Unfortunately, you had your extra time, 4 minutes and a half. So we'll try to finish our discussion here.
One last comment. I also wanted to point out from the presentations, no one is targeting data centers. That's a big fear that people like to throw in there. The city would really like to have big manufacturers who have thousands of employees. They can't 100% control who comes, but they're certainly not going to go out looking for big companies that have very few employees. It's not in their best interest, although those big companies do actually pay property tax, so there actually is some input into the system. It's just not as great as if we had thousands of employees, which is really what the city's goal is, to increase everything. They're marketing to the other, is what I'm saying.
Lisa?
I just want to recap a couple things that I have said in the past and address a couple misunderstandings, because I'm worried that we might be absorbing things that are not necessarily based in fact. So what we're talking about here is not a tax break. Those companies will still be paying taxes. Those taxes just go to a different place. And we hear loss of funds, and I just want to remind everyone that the whole reason why I started getting fired up about this in the first place is because of the additional funds that it will bring to us. That is something that I and you all have fought very passionately for a long time, and will continue to do that. And I'll remind you that the only way we reasonably disagree with this is if you believe that land is going to be developed anyway. And I just don't, and based on what Kim reminded you that I said. And also that it would take us decades to collect in revenue for schools from that land, what we would collect in the first year after this plan. So, there are valid reasons to not like it. As I said before, I hate data centers. I don't want any data centers, but I do love money for schools, and this will give us more money for schools. So you weigh it on a scale, and money for schools will win no matter what's on the other side for me.
Okay. Thank you very much.
One more comment.
Mark?
I would like to see us encourage the city to use some of their bonding authority to finance affordable housing, which this city is greatly in need of, since we have 5,000 families that are under the poverty level, or to finance a skill center like we saw in Vancouver. They're using it to help developers develop land. I see a bigger priority in affordable housing and skills.
Can I just say 30 seconds?
Okay.
So at the risk of getting off topic in 30 seconds, I also sit on the city's committee to actually update their long-range plan. That is on their mind. They're working on it. Not necessarily wanting, but I mean trying to get housing for all levels of employment.
Well, I know they are, but you're using 176 million of authority to do this.
Understand.
Okay, thank you. Good discussion. On our item, we have a motion on the table to vote on the letter of support that is in the board packet for the North Hillsboro Industrial Renewal Area, moved by Eric and seconded by Glenn. Seeing no further discussion, I would ask all those in favor of the action to say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed?
Nay.
Noted. And motion carries. Okay, next up on our agenda for action items, we have the approval of the 2016-2017 calendar, school calendar. And at this point, we have three people who would like to address the board regarding the topic. So, in the top of my pile, we have Devin. I don't know why the order was this way. You're the first up.
So Devin Hunter, 5835 Southwest 191st Avenue in Helena, Oregon. So I basically wanted to just say that classified staff would really appreciate that whatever calendar you pick retains the district or the statewide in-service event, because events that happen for licensed staff, because it's a non-contract day for all classified, gives them the opportunity to choose to participate in other professional development. For example, this year there was the Google Summit held at Hillsboro High School. I saw a lot of classified folks show up to try and get more skills in Google tools, because we're using that more and more often, and it was a great benefit for them. But if we take away that in-service day, and we don't allow staff to really have that opportunity because there's not as many statewide activities, they can't go, to hang out with other people. So I would encourage the board to support the plan that retains that state in-service day on the second Friday in October. So.
Is that one of our plans? Mm-hmm. All of them? You'll tell us?
Next we'll have Maureen.
Maureen Barnhart, 17652 Northwest Emmaus Lane, Portland, 97231. It is in the Hillsboro School District. When a community member cares enough to consider the school calendar and the family calendars, we can only be heartened that parents do understand the importance of attendance. But in considering the benefits and cons in this case, I fear it's a bit too late in the game to make any changes to the current proposal. The dates that are proposed to offset the non-contract day in November would upset the tightly scheduled professional development and in-service work that needs to be accomplished. The first of the October dates represents a day set in time to allow elementary teachers to consider what they've learned about their students and how to prepare to work with them for the remainder of the school year, and to get ready for the conferences so they can speak to what the students know. The second date is the statewide in-service day, and it's not used by every educator, but it is an opportunity for many to reach out to the professional organizations, so we're in agreement with the classified union. The Oregon Teachers of Mathematics, the Oregon Teachers of Science, of Reading, there are STEM opportunities, there are a variety of strategies to work with ELL students, students on IEPs, or at your particular grade level, middle school, early childhood. It's a variety that the district can't offer alone. So it's our opportunity to take advantage of those professional experiences, professional trainings. It's a time to find out more about the new Common Core standards and what resources are available to find out about STEM. Some of our Hillsboro educators are the presenters at these workshops. The Hillsboro School District offers a Google Summit on that day, and it's highly respected. It could be that we should be considering a week in November, like the whole week, but I'm not sure what the implications might be for learning. I just know that the local districts that already take a whole week started before Labor Day. So if the calendar's not working for the community, can we look at the entire year and really consider what might work best for education events? Thanks.
So was that a recommendation for 1, 2, or 3?
To stay with the one that was recommended last time. One, please, thank you.
Okay, AAA 634 Northwest Carswood Terrace in Beaverton, Oregon. And I want to thank the board for reaching out to the community and to my fellow teachers and myself just to determine the most effective calendar for our students. Tonight I'm compelled to share what I know, what I feel I know. And I know that holding conferences the week of Thanksgiving is not effective. Last year, when we held conferences the week of Thanksgiving, I had 68% of my parents show up. And I heard data last month that shared that over the school district that the percentage will decrease compared to years prior in regards to parents attending their conferences. I really feel that, as a teacher, I feel that conferences are an opportunity to go over a child's progress with parents and to discuss the child's study skills and if they're effective habits of learning. And it's important that that happens early on. I feel like it's an opportunity to educate parents about parent feed, to model and to show parents actually how that works. And we know how critical that is, that they are informed about their students' grades. And also to just share successes that the child is currently having. It's an opportunity in my building to talk about the student-parent-teacher compact that is signed together when we sit and have conferences together. All three of us sign that compact saying that we're going to support that child in their learning that year. And then also in my school, we're a school-wide title school, so it's an opportunity to share with the parents what that means and how we can support their child. Sometimes it's the first time I've met that parent in person, and I get to shake their hand and say that we're here together, we're going to work as a team, and that's really important, that collaborative relationship building. I really think that if we take the week off for Thanksgiving, I think the parents look at this week off as just that. It's really, truly a lengthy time to spend with their family and with their loved ones, and conferencing with their child's teacher, unfortunately, is not a priority that week. So if we want to create a calendar where we take the week off, then let's start 3 days earlier, or let's end 3 days later in June. We can call it Thanksgiving break, or probably better yet, we should call it fall break, where families in our communities can spend time with their loved ones. And by the way, we have 1,200 of our teachers that are part of this community. I know there is a concern about the no school November. I've heard that myself, but you know, November has more federal holidays than any other month. Actually, January has 2 as well, but one is the 1st of January, and we're always on winter break. And we always take Friday off, so there's 3 days. And that's out of our control. Maybe we should schedule conferences at the end of October, when the majority of our students are struggling to focus, and you probably know why. They're tired from being up late, walking around, knocking on doors, and have lots of sugar. If that doesn't sound appealing, then let's create a calendar similar to our current calendar that we have this year, where students come to school Monday through Wednesday. I saw tonight that our attendance on November 25th was 4 to 5% lower than the days prior. But I believe people are creatures of habit, and I have to tell you that we haven't had a student contact time on that Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving since I've been here, and I started in 2010. I really like us to stay consistent and encourage parents to send their children to school. In closing, I urge you to create a calendar that's best for kids, that does, like Travis said, promote parental engagement, and does engage and challenge all learners to ensure academic success. And I can do that with parent support. Thank you.
With that, I'll be looking for a motion so that we can proceed.
I make a motion to approve draft 1 of the 2016-2017 school calendar.
Second.
The motion is made by Kim, seconded by Janine. Any questions or further comment?
I want to confirm that draft 1 has the day they're talking about, the in-service day.
Yes.
As the day.
Yes. Has it as in our contract.
I'm trying to go back pages to make sure. Thank you.
Any questions on the calendars? Okay. Those in favor of the motion to accept the schedule number 1, which was the original schedule proposed some time back. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. And those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much, Debbie, for looking at that detailed study. Appreciate it. Next, we have ratification of the agreement with the Hillsboro Education Association. And Debbie.
So you have before you the ratification vote for the tentative agreement that we've reached with the Hillsboro Education Association. We reviewed in executive session all the financials and the general language that we've added to the contract. Do you want me to go into detail on those?
No. Well, I think you covered it in the executive session. So unless there's questions.
And on the sit page.
Okay. We are then looking for a motion.
I make a motion to recommend that the Board of Directors approve the 3-year collective bargaining agreement with Hillsboro Education Association effective July 1, 2015 through June 30th, 2018, as tentatively agreed to by the district bargaining team.
Second.
Stereo. Who wants a second? Lisa. Ratification agreement with the Hillsboro Education Association has been moved by Janine, seconded by Lisa, and closely a third by Kim. Any questions? Okay.
Just a comment. Thank you to the entire team. Bargaining is very, very, very time intensive, and it takes people on both sides of the table, and a lot of administrators, and to Janine, who picked up the bulk of the weight for the board members. I got to help a little bit, but Janine was really the soldier, so starting in February, and just a big kudos, for everyone involved. It's a major commitment.
Thank you so much. With that, I would ask all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed? Motion carries. And my voice, apparently. It's been in and out all evening.
Very authoritative.
Unintentionally authoritative. But I certainly appreciate all the work that's been gone on to reach that agreement. It's very, very heartening. We are next to a topic of adoption of the boundary adjustment resolution. And with that, I see my name by it. There's been a lot of conversation over the past months and months as we've gone through this process. I don't want to reiterate all that we've talked about in the past month. It has been on up for public comment in this last month, in this last period of time since our last meeting, where I presented information and the recommendation that came forward from the working group. We left last work session having talked about this with a good question from Lisa, who asked for more information about financial impacts due to the property value differences between the current and projected property values. And As a result of that, Adam went through some detailed estimations regarding 20-year
we looked at
20-year estimation of the likely scenarios for what would happen if we did perform the property adjustment or if we didn't. And Adam, do I want to hand it to you to say a few things, or
can
summarize it?
What I looked at was the potential loss or gain, because remember the way the state school fund works, the value of the property in general doesn't necessarily impact one district over the other. That money goes into the pool that's split at the state level. So regardless of who that extra value, which district it belongs to, the dollars that are collected end up in Salem and are distributed. Where it does have an impact is on a general obligation bond, so a construction bond, and on local option levy. So the numbers I ran compared the difference between the tax rate on a GO bond over 20 years, and it was very minimal. I mean, it turned out to be, I think, $8 or $9 over the 20-year period of the GO bond in terms of the rate per thousand on a $300,000 house. There is a slightly bigger impact. I think it was about $6 million in potential local option collections over that same 20-year period. I think it was $406 million potentially could be collected over that 20-year period if we did go through, if we do not go through with the, or if we do go through with the adjustment, and it's $412 million, I think, if we don't go through with it. So there's about a $6 million gain if we do not go through with it over the life of the thing, if we pass 4 successive 5-year local option levies. So.
And you left the rest to our imagination, but as I recall in my own mental arithmetic, I believe your position is $6 million, which equates out to some $300,000 a year over the 20-year time period, distributed unevenly in an actual path, significantly lower than the likely costs we'll incur for not going through with the property adjustment and incurring particularly the expenses of buying new property and financing additional construction to the tune of an estimate of anywhere from 25
to 28 million.
25 to 28 million.
Probably 30 million by the end of the year, the way construction costs are going.
And that in a 20-year outlook seemed to me well within our range of understanding the values and guessing where all property values are and what areas are hot in the future. Puts this as a decision that has clear financial benefit to the district, to the community. That was the conclusion I was drawing from your information. And in addition, we met as Mike and I and you took this information that we'd rolled up back to Beaverton District. We met with the superintendent, with their financial staff, and went through your estimation and the reason that we were interested in following up with some of your questions, Lisa. And they received it well and are communicating the same information to their board. We'll also be meeting and going through the same decision process in the coming week for the next board meeting. With that information and background, I would first look for a motion and then we would pick up any additional discussion before we vote.
So I'll make a motion that we adopt the boundary adjustment proposal.
Second.
Motion is made by Glenn and seconded by Eric to adopt the boundary adjustment resolution, a document that is in our packet. Any further discussion points that would like to be raised? Lisa.
So thank you for doing all that legwork, and I know that I have become one of Adam's top favorite people this month, so you're welcome. Okay, so as I said last month when we talked about this, it's something that I've really struggled with, and We didn't until this weekend decide how I really feel about it. So my intention is to vote no on this. I can't get my mind around accepting something that is such a short stick for us in a trade. I do really feel that the real market value issue is a bigger one than we're giving it credit for. It is an inequitable trade, and I'm worried that instead of thinking in the long term by agreeing to do this, we're very short-sighted. Yes, it's true that we would save a lot of money not having to build a school, and that's the redeeming quality of this for me, and I struggle to overcome that. But really, what it comes down to is we're saying to like the kids who are in kindergarten right now, by the time you're grown up and you buy a house and you're paying property taxes, you're going to have to probably pick up the slack, because this board, you know, when you were a kid, decided to swap this land for something that's worth half as much and won't be developed until 10 or 20 years later. It's not a responsible financial decision for the future of our community, even though it may very well be saving us some money in the short term. I just can't get my mind around it. It's a raw deal for us. It's basically like saying, oh, you've got this shiny car that you can buy, and it's only going to cost you $99 a month, but we're not reading the fine print that says you're going to have to pay for the next 100 years of your life, and you have a giant interest rate. So I don't see the long-term benefit for my children and my grandchildren, and so I'm going to vote no. And finally, the perception. I do not believe for a second that the Beaverton School District is a better school district than the Hillsboro School District, and there is a perception with the value of this land that they somehow deserve to have this land that has double the real market value, and I just don't agree with that, so I can't do it.
I think it was Kim and Lisa, or Kim and Janine and Eric.
So also have thought about this for a very, very long time, long before it came in this motion. I have changed my mind during this process, and it's because my initial concerns around who had capacity to serve the students. And Beaverton has come to the table and has indicated that they have the capacity to serve if there is a swap. And I have been convinced by the information presented that we have the capacity with what we've planned for South Hillsboro to serve the students that we would get in this specific physical swap. If it was different, if we didn't think there was the capacity in South Hillsboro for where we've already planned, I would feel very differently. But because of that component in serving the students, I understand the walkable, livable neighborhoods, but in this case, I do think it does serve the portion that we would receive. I've expressed to Mike and Adam, transportation is critical to me for those students who will be impacted, who do not want to be impacted, that we do whatever it takes. So if I live in South Cooper Mountain and I want to go to Hill High and graduate from Hill High, I want to make sure that we do whatever it takes to make that happen, whether it's one kid or 10 kids. And for me, there's some morals of the story from all of this. School district boundaries in cities are not the same. And I'm frustrated by the process of city and county folks who often are not helpful, and we're trying to be helpful in this process. They are not the same. They will never be the same. Beaverton is made up of a lot of areas that are not City of Beaverton proper, as is Hillsboro School District. I wish that some city folks and county folks could help us in that regard. There will always be boundaries, as there should be. Do not build a school on the corner boundary line of 4 school districts. No good can be had from that. I am glad that we are not the school district that has a high school in the corner of where 4 school districts come. I am glad that I am not the person in the district office who has to deal with open enrollment. No good will come from that. I hope we never have to do this again. Boundaries should not be flexible because it is so complex, and how much time, staff time, has been put into this. But again, because I do believe we can serve the students that would come to us from the Beaverton area without an additional cost and not having to build a new school, I will support this swap tonight.
I first want to acknowledge the work of the committee and the district. The time involved in this whole process has been incredible, and I do appreciate that. As I've said before, how this decision came to be initially, how it was presented, in my opinion, it was not a fair process. It was not something, to me, how you arrive upon a decision is just as important, if not more important than the decision itself. We need to think about the process of how this boundary, how this particular piece of land has come to be. It started with years back of boundary requests, changes, 1,600 acres just to be moved. It came with changing a Northwest Regional ESD from doing boundary approvals and changes and had that moved over to the county commissioners. It had laws and legislative direction that enforced districts to come together and solve this problem. Legislators kind of made that action. And then there's the landowner, the person involved in this that is also appointed to the Washington County Land Use and Transportation Department and committee. And I just don't believe when you talk about equitable practices and equity, this has not been a process that is open and there for everyone that is equal. I also want to make it be known that it would not be wise to base your vote tonight on the notion that we will save millions by not building a school in that area. This area, this whole area in that area is an area of high future growth prediction. And I want you to think about what has happened in our district with the Orenco area. We all thought that our Orenco and Quitama was just great, and we had Portland State information, and we had all this information, and then what did we have to do right after we opened it? We had to switch boundaries. Parents and students were uproared, and they were, it's not a guarantee, and I really worry about carefully making that guarantee that you're not going to be building a school, or it doesn't look like you'll be building a school. Because that takes me, I'm going to come back to number 3, but to number 4, which I'm concerned with the community perception. I'm concerned with the perception that people feel that Beaverton is a superior district than Hillsboro, because that's bunk. I don't believe it. None of us on this panel believe it, on this board, and we know it's not true. But there's a perception out there. And when you tell voters, when you take these pieces of land and you're somehow looking at Hillsboro voters and you say that that is somehow an equal process and they're getting this is a fair swap. Perception out there when you're looking at bonds and levies and everything, people are going to be thinking about this. And they're going to be going, well, I don't know if I want to invest more money in Hillsboro, because somehow they're just open to taking a smaller parcel from Beaverton. Back to number 3. When I spoke to a city council member recently, that person said to me that he envisions this aligning city, district, community lines, county lines, and community lines, sorry. How does this work? How does this work across our district? When you consider Rock Creek, it's a Portland address. You consider Free Orchards Elementary, that's a Cornelius address. You consider North Plains, that's a community within itself. And then there was the whole idea of the Amber Glen area. That Amber Glen area is Hillsboro address, but they're Beaverton schools. The whole idea is this area is completely different. Our boundaries are different. And as I said in my vote in 2012, let's sit down and have this discussion. Because by God, we don't all have the time to be doing this pocket by pocket. Adam doesn't have the time, his department. We don't have the time to be doing this pocket by neighborhood. There was an article in the newspaper that said, well, what about Rock Creek? Will you bring it forward? Because we'd like to go to Westview. And someone said, sure, bring that forward. That's not what we're in the business for. We're not in the business to be doing this. And we need to be looking at the growth and everything in this area and looking at the bigger picture on that and then making it. Because, and that was what my vote was in 2012. And surprise among surprise, I am a solid no for this, because it has not been a process from the very beginning that has been equitable and fair.
Oh yeah, so I just wanted to quickly point out, one slight flaw I see in Lisa's logic here is that this is a regional optimization. right? So if we talk about the taxable land being, becoming higher in Beaverton, lower in Hillsboro, okay, you might argue that's unfair to our district, but for the region as a whole, we're not taking money away from education. Well, if we don't do this boundary adjustment, basically due to the poor distribution of the populations in relation to the districts, we're actually incurring the obligation to build an extra school. So that's, like I said, $20+ million effectively being lost to the educational system that doesn't need to be spent. This district shift, saves us from having to build that extra school, at the possible expense of maybe a slightly unfair distribution of some small amount of dollars between Hillsboro and Beaverton. But I think that's something that we're doing to benefit the region overall, and I'm willing to do it.
All right, first off, I just wanted to thank everyone for the robust conversations that we've had around this table. Sometimes they've been heated, and I regret that we went down that route, but I certainly do understand the feelings that everyone has had over this, and I appreciate everyone bringing their best arguments to the table so we can really have a fair and full, absolutely full hearing of it. And I want to appreciate or thank the staffs, actually, from both Beaverton and Hillsboro, who actually then took a look at this idea that I brought to the table and actually went and put a lot of thought into it and basically validated and went further than anything that I had said as far as promises and how much money. So I just appreciate the time that you guys put into it. Now, I don't want to refight old discussions that we've had over the course of several months, but I will point out this. The process has not been unfair. From the standpoint that when I first brought this to the table, it was my idea based on my reading of and study for several years, or 2 years, in the long-range planning committee ideas that I had heard, what I thought was workable, and my own analysis of the situation. So I proposed the idea, to people, told them what I was willing to support and was willing to go after, and then I did my research and validated that. I brought that to the board's attention as soon as the idea was pretty much fully formed. And then we talked about a process, and we voted unanimously to follow that process. I brought the proposal under that process, and we talked about it, and we argued about it, and it worked its way all the way through to the point where we got this all in the light of day for everyone. From the very beginning, my motivation was threefold. It was to save money for the district at a time when I know that we have $150 million of very highly critically needed backlog of projects that have to be done. I know that we're going to be passing a bond for building new schools, but we need that money. We need some of that money for the backlog. So to save that amount of money, at the time, I only claimed, I think, $14 million in my original assessment. I might have even been 10. But in any case, I felt that, and I still feel that extra money saved at this point in time is better used for that process later. The only other thing that I will say about the future is that the only constant is change. By the time 2035 rolls around, according to the city of Hillsboro, and again, I'm on the Citizens Advisory Committee for their comprehensive plan, which is something that everyone has to do legally, every one of the big government aims. Anyway, there's going to be, the growth is going to slow down, but there are going to be more schools beyond South Hillsboro. We know for a fact that there's going to be another school built in North Plains, because they have projects that are on the books, but as soon as the urban growth boundary changes there, and it will, within 10 years, we're going to be building a school out there. We know that the area west of South Hillsboro is going to need a few more schools, because it's going to come in the next 20 years as well. And then there's an area north of Hillsboro, which I think it might be, but I'm not 100% sure whether it's in Beaverton or Hillsboro, but there's going to be 2 or 3 schools up there. So this is all, this conversation has to be done not in this vacuum. Everything's frozen for 30 years. We can only focus on what we know by the law and what the legislature has done now and what is right based on the budgets and everything we have now. In 10 years, we might be talking about, we will be going out for bonds, and then we'll be going out for other bonds later for high school and other things. So to say that, to talk about a payback for 20 years is kind of a little bit beyond what's really the payout, because we honestly can't judge that far out. But I can tell you that I know that this is going to save us money for the next 10 years at least, money that can be used right now for the backlog of projects that we need to do. Because we are going to go out for funding for more schools. And when we do that, we need to save every dollar we can to serve the existing buildings that we have. That was the number one motivation. The second motivation was and is that how are we serving students? And I believe in neighborhoods that are one piece. And it is, I don't know why that they decided to pick that spot right there on the corner of the Hillsboro and Beaverton boundaries to build a high school, but they did. Fact is, that continuous neighborhood that can be walkable is much better for the students there than having to be bused over to our facilities and for us having to build a school there to take the overflow. So it matches on that as well. And then there's the environmental considerations. And when we do that, then we are going to be spending money and putting pollution in the air or whatever and wear on the roads to actually put people around at various places. So from all those scores, this was something that I thought was reasonable, and I stand behind it. And I appreciate the full and fair hearing that we've had. So again, I respect my colleagues who are saying there's no way, no heck, that's fine. We're still friends. But I'm obviously a supporter of this. So thank you all for your consideration and for your votes tonight, whether for or against. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
No, I've talked twice. I think this one's shorter.
I was hoping everybody would get one chance to talk, and I would talk.
You can talk after you if you want.
Okay, I'll take
That's not my prerogative. Monty,
I'm just shocked. I'm shocked. We voted for this procedure to go through. We had our superintendent, we had our chair, we had our CFO meet with Beaverton. We gave the Beaverton chair, their CEO, their CFO, come up with, meet our criteria. We gave them criteria to look at to base this decision on. And then for them to come back and tell us, yes, this is the right answer, or here's the numbers that you should be considering. And then to ignore that and come up with fuzzy math about what's going to happen in the future, I'm just shocked. That's all I can say.
I'd rather not start a second round through here. I think everyone has said it. Lisa, will you be okay if I say a few words and call for a vote?
Are you going to defend Adam's math as not being fuzzy, or not?
He was agreeing with Adam.
I think so.
Yeah, I agree with Adam. That's the fuzzy math I'm hearing tonight.
Adam's math.
I don't think.
That's fine. Whatever.
I'm open. I just am trying to bound the discussion.
Sure,
do you have a final word you'd like to say?
Go ahead.
Okay, because I'm doing my best to make sure everyone has said their piece. Is that good? I don't mind if you'd like to say it.
It's fine. Go ahead.
Thank you. All right. Thank you again so much for all the discussion. Enough's been said. I do want to. We've had a lot of different meetings with a lot of different focuses of the discussion. We've talked most recently about money and associated dollars likely saved here or there and the ability to approximate. I appreciate all the work that has gone into giving all possible data for a professional group of people to analyze it and me to be able to sit and participate and watch with them as they take the best interests of both school districts and the communities into account. I do want to reiterate the elements of the draft resolution that summarizes how we go about making, how we as a district are agreeing, and Beaverton District go about agreeing to participate in these activities and what our values are that draw us to this. And I read this before, but I would like to spend my moment reviewing why this draft resolution is being brought forward. Whereas the districts have determined that the proposal meets the following criteria. These are the criteria that were set, given in rough terms to the committee and formalized as part of the committee analysis. Making sure that of the safety and the welfare of students, the proposed change would positively impact the safety and welfare of all students. Neighborhood, community, and for geographic continuity. The proposed change would maintain continuity with existing and developing neighborhoods and cities. Prudent stewardship of public resources. The proposed change would create a more efficient expenditure of overall public resources. School district facility capacity. The proposed change is one that each district's existing and planned facilities can accommodate. Community interest. Patrons and community members and leaders share and demonstrate an interest in the proposed boundary adjustment. Regional local growth and development plans. The proposed change complements broader regional and local growth and development plans, including existing and projected adjustments to the urban growth boundary and city service plans for undeveloped areas. And timeliness, the districts considered this proposal when sufficient information was available to make a proper decision. I believe, as all of you do, and has been repeatedly said, that Hillsboro school district is amazing, and we have the ability to educate any student with high quality. I also believe that there are logistical factors that assist families and communities in ways that are outside of our direct service that benefits them, and it is the opinion of the committee that you charged to make this recommendation that while we could maintain and improve service to all students in the existing with the existing boundaries, that this boundary adjustment would be even more effective at providing those services to students with all the benefits to community, students, families that have been stated. And for that reason, I brought this recommendation forward and plan to support. So with that, I will call for a vote. This motion has been made by Glenn, seconded by Eric, and I would ask now that all those in favor of the motion of adopting this boundary adjustment resolution, please say aye. Aye. And those opposed?
No.
That, by my counting, means the motion has carried. Thank you again so much. That is, I think, is an excellent demonstration of a board being able to work together despite differences to come to a difficult and well-thought decision. I appreciate all of your help and input. Okay, next item, elect a member to OSBA Board of Directors. We have in our board packet that I don't believe is sitting in front of me.
Can we just make a motion? Can it just be a motion?
Perfect.
I make a motion to elect Maureen Wolf, our representative for position 16 on the OSBA Board of Directors.
Second.
Motion is made by Kim, seconded by Janine. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And those opposed? Motion carries. And, lastly, of our action items, we have an item to elect members to the OSBA Legislative Policies Committee. And I am looking for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we vote for Kim Strelchin for position 15 for our OSBA Legislative Policy Committee. And I guess number 16, Fred Marble for 16.
Second.
The motion has been made by Janine and seconded by Mark to elect Kim and Kim Strelchin and Fred Marble to positions 15 and 16. Any discussion? Those in favor, please say aye. Oh, there was.
Nobody's going to discuss otherwise. No. It's good. No, we can't.
Do I need to quickly prove myself?
No.
So, okay, so
what do you think of that?
Sorry, I didn't want to jump in.
I was prepared to defend the nomination, which isn't necessary. So.
Okay, those in favor, please indicate aye.
Aye.
And those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. With that, if I'm not mistaken, we are to report outs by the Northwest Regional ESD. Do I see a representative? Otherwise, from HCU and HEA. in whichever order you care to.
Guess what I'm going to talk about. So, we are excited to enter into this new agreement, the contract, and we not only welcome the final result, but we value the conversations that we had and the appreciation that everyone shared about how all of this staff in Hillsboro has been pulling together over those very lean years to maintain our programs. We feel this contract both shows the respect that's held for our work to maintain the quality of the district, and it makes the district the destination for those HSD students taking the career pathways towards education. Thank you very much, especially to those of you who are involved in the bargaining. We really appreciate you. Thanks.
So, as my role as a tech support personnel, I am intimately experienced with the lives of how our classified staff use technology. And one of the things that I have seen is a huge problem is that our classified staff do not have adequate access to recent or quality technology. Most of their computers are between the 8 to 10 years old. Schools are starting to dig into their own school district or their building funds to pay for new computers, like in those critical positions like office managers. And I'm really concerned because it's pulling money away from doing that pulls money away from student achievement, student investment. And I see, and one thing I would point out that we talked about is that brand new manufacturing grant in Century High School, the students' computers in there, about half of them are over 10 years old. And I think the reason we're at this position is one, is because the bond failed for technology investment and there was no backup plan. That's actually not correct. The backup plan was to use virtual desktop infrastructure to try and breathe life into these 10-year-old machines and try and get them to where they're functional. And that's been met with sort of a mixed bag, because anytime you have 10, 12-year-old computers, you're not going to get a high-quality experience, and you're going to have students who are going to have their lives impacted. While I care about that deeply, because I care about student achievement, I'm more concerned with the classified staff who are wasting time, who are unable to get their work done, who spend a 15-minute slice of time to check their email. They're spending 7 minutes of it waiting for the computer to log on. And the sad thing is that it doesn't take a whole lot to fix. A $250 Chromebook would more than save that scenario. But when you start doing the math, it's not, I can't just snap my fingers and say, let's give every classified staff a Chromebook, because that's a lot of money. But I do know that and I don't want to say that we're misspending our money, because we're investing in really critical things like wireless infrastructure at elementary schools. That's really important. But I find it really odd, and one of the things that's really difficult is that we as a district, made a decision to buy the most expensive laptop we probably could for licensed staff, which are the Apple MacBook Airs. And while I don't want to talk about the reasoning behind that, I just want to point out that the cost of doing that, I think, has negatively impacted our classified staff. We don't have enough computers to go around. We seem to have stopped looking at the affordability of our purchasing decisions. We buy Apple TVs in classrooms or in schools that don't have adequate wireless coverage. We have a gigantic number of licenses for our virtual desktop infrastructure that we don't utilize. And every one of these decisions is a cost, is investment of dollars, and it takes away from the ability for our classified staff to have access to adequate technology. And I know my boss, who's sitting over there, who I don't want to look at because it's really embarrassing at this moment, but he works really hard to try and get stuff going for staff. And I don't want to say that he doesn't do his job great. And he's working every day to try and find ways of getting technology in students' hands and better and greater technology. But we really got to think about what is the affordability of our technology purchases, what is the affordability of our decisions, and how do our decisions affect the budget overall and how it affects our students. And part of that is how it affects our staff. So I ask you that as we move forward into the era of slowly bringing back money to the schools, that we do invest in technology for classified staff and try and get them outside of those 10-year-old machines, because it's killing people with their time, and it's making it really difficult. They just throw up their hands, and I have a lot of staff who just don't check email anymore because they just don't have time. And that is really damaging to their job and really damaging to the relationship with their principal, because they never talk to them, because a lot of the communications come through email. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. So first of all, I'd like to thank the bargaining members who put in hours and hours, Debbie and Adam, and our cabinet members who participated, and of course Kim and Janine who volunteered tons of hours. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And our concern, one of our values all along, was getting more competitive with our licensed staff and their salaries, and I think we've taken a big step in that direction, so I'm very appreciative of that. I'd also like to say that I had a great visit to Century High School today. My goal was to visit the performing arts and the visual arts classes. Oftentimes when I go into schools, I either am targeting or I'm steered towards some of the core academic courses. And this time I wanted to deliberately look at the performing arts and the visual arts. I visited the two-dimensional art courses, the three-dimensional, the Art 1, the Art 4, the band and the choir. Mary Kay, still very nice job today. Very, very nice. And so I just really appreciate the dedication of our staff and their commitment to the arts and the way that you work to find a niche for students, and that niche is so important as they make their way through high school. So I'm glad you're still here, and thank you very much for all that you do.
All of our high school choirs will be at the Grotto next week. I recommend you go and listen to it. It's a great venue for them. And I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah.
I was very excited to vote on the first bargaining agreement of my school board career, so hooray. I was very disappointed, of course, that I couldn't, participate in the super awesome team, but maybe next time, so thank you guys. I leave at like 6 a.m. on Thursday morning to go down to San Diego to the AVID conference. I'm really excited about that because of the grant that Nike gave us. So I'm going to be joining some of our staff and have a super fun time and wear tank tops. So that'll be great. And then finally, just a real quick one. I take a moment to defend myself a little bit because I felt like it was just a little bit insulting, accusing me of having fuzzy math about the boundary adjustment. So I'm going to disagree and commit after this meeting, but I'm going to defend myself first, just for a minute. I don't have fuzzy math. A school would cost in the range of $24 million at the low end to $30 million at the high end. And Adam's math tells us that there will be $6 million less collected over the course of a construction bond. So you take 24, you divide it by 6, and you get 4. You take 30, and you divide it by 6, and you get 5. Therefore, over the course of 4 to 5 construction bonds, the cost to our community on those construction bonds will be greater than the benefit of not building a school. It's not fuzzy math, it's division. So that was my math, and it's not fuzzy.
Okay. I don't follow that, but that's okay.
It's fuzzy.
I'm not going to say that.
Sorry, guys.
But in any case, again, thank you everyone for coming tonight. It is Christmas time and Hanukkah and all those other season great things are happening. So we appreciate you being here. I will give you the blessing from where I was born in Hawaii. Mele Kalihimaka e Hauli Maki Kiho. It's Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
I just wanted to we talk a lot about our partnerships, and one of the things that I wanted to mention when Travis was talking about the career and college readiness is that for my younger son, I think one of the things, the benefits that he's had towards trade is the School to Career program through the Hillsboro Chamber. That's been an amazing program, and I just hope that I look forward to building that and to giving students those opportunities to be able to look at those other options out there, that some may take them on the college path and some may take them on a career path. So the gals that work in that in that area are just fantastic. And also this time of year, for the last 5 years, I've been going to read to every one of the elementary schools and read, normally I read How the Grinch Stole Christmas, but sometimes I read Owl Moon or Snowflake Bentley was a new one that was added this year. And yes, it's just a small little snippet that I get in every one of those schools, but I'm telling you, my cup is full because when I leave those schools, because when you sit down after you read with those students, you never know what they're going to come up with afterwards. Their questions, their comments can be somehow that I've triggered some sort of memory. They talk about the different types of books that they read and what do I like to read. And I just think it's a wonderful opportunity to really get down on the level of students and be able to talk with them. And one of the special moments is, of course, going to the Groner Elementary and to the DHH class, the Deaf and Hard of Hearing class, because to be able to bring joy to any student is fantastic, but to hear the laughter of a student who they can't hear your words is incredible. And they have interpreters there that sign along with me, and it is an incredible feeling. And I just commend Scott for supporting, and the district for supporting such an amazing program, that we have students that aren't just from Hillsboro in that program. And I look forward to hearing more about how that's going to grow when they add on their 8th grade year. And if you haven't had the opportunity to visit that class, please do so. And with that, I will just say happy holidays to all.
I will remind everybody that the biggest competition of all is happening right now at all the high schools with Canned Food Drive, and I love watching the collaboration and cooperation between all of them. And that it's competition, but it's really fun-spirited. Shockingly, I'm going to tell you about something that's related to theater. Liberty High School is their closing weekend of Treasure Island. This is the first time it's been staged in the United States. At all, not just at a high school, but at all. So it's a pretty big deal. Mrs. Van West is awesome. And happy holidays. Enjoy winter break and time with family and friends.
All right, don't have much to add. Happy Christmas and Hanukkah, everyone.
And for myself as well, it's been a wonderful first part of the year. I can talk about a lot of things. I guess I had the most fun last Saturday. It was a first weekend of 2 of the LEGO robotics competitions that are happening all around Hillsboro. Hillsboro is a mecca for technology, and it's a mecca for kids coming together to show what they can do. When we talked about high schools without sports teams, but knowing how to build and grow teamwork, I can completely see and understand how we can create environments like that for kids to come together, to learn, to grow as a team, and to express themselves through all manner of technology. And it's been a wonderful experience. I was pleased at the great support that the district plays in what isn't technically a school activity, and it's driven by outside forces, and yet the schools have embraced it. The principals are engaged. I saw many principals out and wearing their t-shirts, and if you want to see a good show, the next round will be at Hill High next weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So Saturday at Hill High. And so it was a very exciting example for how kids just turn up the dials and deliver when they put their minds to a new idea. Really appreciate this beautiful time. We're going into holiday season. We have a couple weeks left of school, and so I know the kids are twitchy to get going. But the text in my pocket says that there's an Algebra 1 assignment we got to go home and get done. So I will end tonight with a very Merry Christmas to all, Happy Hanukkah, any others that you care to celebrate, and it's just a beautiful time being here, and I'm proud of you, Steve. Thank you very much, and we are out. Good night.